There we go. Hello, everyone. Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. Coming in live to you today. As long as YouTube doesn't shut me down right in the middle of a live stream, hopefully all will go well. So that was pretty frustrating on Wednesday when that happened. Grr. So, I mean, those of you who missed it or even missed my little live blip I did over on the other channel, and I was talking about what happened on Wednesday. It's like, I'm going along, everything's great, and all of a sudden I see this little thing that says warning, uh something about you're disconnecting and YouTube is reconnecting you. Then it went away and I noticed the little live thing was there and I'm like, well, I should be good. But no, nobody could hear me, nobody could see me. So I had to shut it down after several minutes because the only interaction I could have was in chat and then start a new live. So, like I said on the other one, make sure that if that happens, hang on long enough for me to put something in the chat and say, and then, but once I say I'm going to start a new stream, just back out and then watch for that new stream to start. Because otherwise, if you stay in that chat, you'll never see it come back. It'll just go to the beginning and start a replay. Yeah, that was frustrating. And then it messed up my mic somehow, my audio, so that it was terrible all the way through. So I might recover some of those same questions again this coming Wednesday since there was a lot of choppiness. I didn't even listen to the whole thing. I didn't even bother downloading it. It just wouldn't be worth my time to try to edit that because it was such a mess. But yeah, we will be talking about the benefits of fasting. But even if you don't think it's for you, I suggest you stick around and listen. I'll be starting that in probably about 20 minutes from now. So if you're watching this in replay and you want to get straight to the point, just kind of move that cursor that status bar over about 20 minutes in, and that's where I'll be starting. Until then, we'll be chatting about a few other things and a few more announcements. Hello. Hey. See Rhonda again. And then, of course, Tammy's decided not to be a slacker today. Oh, that's going to be my fun thing now with Tammy. And Sandra D, his sweetie, Palmetto Paratrooper. Carol Hamilton. Let's see. Who else? And T, of course. Denise. Hoosier Pioneer. Jenny, sorry. I need my glasses. Oh, it looked like an A at the end. Good gravy. So, okay, and hopefully more will be coming in. King G. Hello, King G. Cindy. Okay, Cindy. Hello, Cindy. And Debbie. All right. So, and I know more will be filtering in. I don't see any of my mods here today. Hopefully somebody will come in. Hijacked my husband's channel. That's what I figured. There's Deb. There she is. And there's Tyler. Good. Fasting overcomes slowing. It does. But then again, there's always the rabbit, or what is it? The tortoise and the hare. So sometimes the slowing can overcome the fasting. And let's see, Laura from Oregon. So anyway, if you missed the little live, sorry, if you missed the little live blurb on the other channel, I did mention that I had a Rumble video published today. I actually shot it earlier in the week and then decided I'll just publish it on Sunday since I can't put it on YouTube anyway. And you might want to go check that out. My Rumble Ramblings, Random Rumble Ramblings #2, because I have a #1 in there, obviously. And just a chance for me to get in there and, just kind of talk about the stuff that I can't just talk about here, that we always have to talk in code if we don't want to, get the ruler across our knuckles or something. And that's, the least. So Yeah, so you might want to check that out. My Rumble channel is always linked in the description box down below. And one thing I didn't think to announce in that other little short live was that I did start the other day just kind of on a whim. I'm like, oh yeah, there's that Substack I keep meaning to look into. And I've never have read anything over there. I've never followed anyone over there. I just thought, let me look into this. Maybe there's something to this. And I just went ahead and made an account and put a post. And I'm like, well, this might be a good place to put longer posts like I would on Patreon, and another good place. And again, free to everyone. So I decided to try it. I kind of like the layout of it. I like it. I like the layout a little better than I do Patreon, but it doesn't mean I'd stop putting stuff on Patreon. So I'm going to try it for a little while and see what I think. But I did put the link to that down below, right at the box, right at the right at the box, in the box, right at the top. So if you're new to how the description box works, just make sure you look for more somewhere down here below the screen, no matter what device you're on. And then you just click on that and it should open the description box all the way. Sometimes I can always tell when someone's kind of new to YouTube and they're like, I can't find your links anywhere because I think they're looking for a pinned comment, which I don't like to depend on doing a pinned comment since my videos a lot of times they're 4 to 6 weeks ahead of time that I've shot them, edited them, and uploaded them. And on YouTube, you cannot comment on the video until after it publishes, and most likely I'll forget. So, Rumble's nice in that way that that's one thing I can do there is I can put a pinned comment under a video on Rumble and before it even publishes. I love that I can do that there. I wish YouTube allowed that too, because then I could make sure I got all that information in both places to make it easy for people to find and not have to worry about forgetting it later. Not that I don't still forget a bunch of stuff. It happens. It's the brain. It just, let's see. What are you guys talking about? What am I missing? I'm missing some funny stuff, it looks like. Darn it. And I don't want to try to catch up right now. So I have a couple other things I wanted to mention. And one being just to remind everyone that I still have a lot of herb seeds that I'm selling. So if you're interested in buying my skin cream, my herb seeds, I'm not selling mullein yet because I haven't collected seed from that yet. I will this spring though, or summer. I will be collecting seed from that. So I won't have that until probably fall, maybe late summer. But always have marshmallow seed, and I do have borage, valerian, always have feverfew, pineapple weed, dandelion. Yes, dandelion. Believe it or not, some people like to buy dandelion seed because they actually don't have any growing around them, or they want to make sure what they're getting is truly or dandelion and that it's also organic, uh, or hasn't obviously dandelion is going to be raised organically because there's no need to not raise it organically, but sometimes you don't know where it all came from, and I get that. So, and more. I have some horehound. I don't know if I have a ton of horehound, but I do have horehound seed. And oh my gosh, I'm going to forget calendula. I have a few vegetable seeds, like I have the glass gem corn, the runner beans, which is mostly the scarlet runner, but there's a few sunset runners thrown in there. No, I don't have any comfrey seeds. Sorry, my comfrey, I have sterile variety. The plants were given to me years ago. I didn't know anything about a sterile and non-sterile. And so one year I'm like, oh, maybe I should save some comfrey seeds. I mean, it flowers every year. So it flowers and I'm waiting to watch for the seeds to mature. No seeds, none. And I realized, I have one of the sterile varieties because they spread well enough without seed. So unfortunately not that, but I do have plantain. What are some other herb seeds I have? Echinacea. I know I have more. Oh, another seed I'll be offering in the fall will be lovage. I'll have lovage seed I'll be offering then. So that'll be cool. But there's more. So anyway, the point being, if you want to find out the list of available things that we make and sell, please email me at raincountryhomestead@gmail.com and I'll just shoot you out the product list. I don't clip parts of a product list if people are just interested in one thing. I send the whole thing out because it also includes the how to order and the payment methods and so on. So it's just so much easier for me to copy paste and not, because basically what I do is I have this file already open and it's already all highlighted. So all I got to do is when somebody emails me, I copy paste. I could set it up to where I just shoot it off as an attachment, but sometimes that doesn't always work for some people. So that's why I do that. I just paste it right into the body. So let me type it. Rain Country Homestead. So my channel name, well, that used to be what my channel name was. Let's see, Rain Country Homestead at Gmail. I can't see very good without my glasses on. I can't see the text. Rain Country Homestead at gmail.com. And yeah, I can send out that product list. It doesn't matter. See, I collect the seed from the broadleaf, but the lance leaf is just as medicinal, but you don't get the same kind of seeds like you do on the broadleaf, where you have you get that kind of stalk of seeds. You have a different type of flower on the lance leaf. So, yeah. Anyway, okay. So I mentioned the Substack. I mentioned the seeds. I mentioned the Rumble video. Oh, and another thing that I don't always think to say. So it's another one of the YouTube frustrations, because you guys know, who've been following me for any length of time, know how I am, that I hate having mid-roll ads. The problem with the lives, like if I put up any other video, I could just the mid-roll ads is always unselected. It's not. It's actually a separate little thing you select when you go to monetize. You say, I ask you, do you want to monetize or not, and you select yes, and then we'll have a little box that you can check if you want to add mid-roll ads. And so I always leave that blank because I don't want mid-roll ads in my videos. However, with the live shows, they don't give you the same option. You automatically have to monetize, and then you have an option of how you want mid-roll ads to appear. What I found is that I could select, I'll insert them manually so that at least during the live show, you don't get an interruption. But once the live show is over and the video fully processes, it'll then start putting in mid-roll ads wherever they want. And so I can't until it finishes processing. Sometimes it takes 15 minutes, sometimes it takes 12 hours. I don't know why, but I can't until that point, until it's done, go in there and make that deselection of mid-roll ads. And then I have to remember, if it's taking all night, I have to remember to go in there and check it as soon as I can to see if it's done processing so I can deselect mid-roll ads. Sometimes I don't always get to it. So if you see that going on, you're watching a replay of a live show and there's ads every 5 minutes, just let me know and I'll go, "Oh yeah, I haven't checked it yet." And then, but yeah, it's so frustrating. It didn't used to be that way. You could just have it where you just had the ad at the beginning on your live shows, and then that's it. That's it. You didn't have to jump through all these hoops and whatnot. So my Rumble channel name is Rain Country Homestead, all one word. And you'll see two, and they're both mine. But the one with the picture of that sign, well, no, not that sign. That one, the one, it's similar to that sign where it's got where it's got the trees, but it's a darker brown. You can't even see the letters on this one, but the letters are white against a dark brown. It says Rain Country. That's the one where you'll find all the playlists and whatnot. but they're both mine. It's just that one is a controlling account and then one is the actual channel where I set up the playlists and I pin videos to the top, like a certain one that I try to keep pinned to the top. Every once in a while, I'll switch it out, but mostly that one stays to the top because it's the hardest one to find. It was my very first video I uploaded over there. So anyway, and then yeah, so the controlling account is kind of great because if I want to, I can start several different channels over there and control them all from that one account. If I ever if I ever want to do that. But the Rumble link is always in the description box anyway, so and the proper one is always there so you can always find it. Evil always starts a little bit at a time. Inserted ads are evil. Yeah, especially when it's against your will. When it's something you don't want. Obviously, as a content creator, we need to have some ads or we don't get paid for our time at all. But I hate ads. I hate when, all through, especially in a live show. Because while you're live and a middle and an ad comes on in the middle of it, just wherever, and you're like, okay, and then when you can finally skip through it and you get in there, you've missed something. That is so irritating. So anyway, grr. Okay, and then just a few minutes. I gotta say this, and I hope I don't make anyone mad because every time I bring this topic up, somebody gets heated about this. Well, I shouldn't say every time. Lately, people haven't been getting as mad at me about this, but I got another freeze dryer horror story emailed to me the other day. Somebody who bought one started out great and had all kinds of issues. Sounds to me that instead of fixing these they're the same issues that's been going on with these units for years. They know it's a problem, but they have not fixed it. I'm not going to mention the company name. At least there's a couple out there, but I'm pretty sure everybody will know who I'm talking about. And I don't know how many of these stories I've got from people. They've spent all this money on this freeze dryer and then it quits working on them and they contact customer service. And now customer service, it used to be they wanted them to, well, I think it used to be you could ship it back to them for free. They'd fix it and send it back. They don't do that anymore. Then they started charging for the shipping because obviously that's costing them a lot of money to have to keep fixing all these units, to have to ship it back to the customer. But now they want to charge people if they're going to fix it, they want to charge people shipping, which is astronomical because it's big and heavy, or they want the customer to fix it themselves and they'll tell them how. But you still have to buy the right parts and pieces to go in there. Why not fix the problem? Why not fix the problem? And I know one lady a couple years ago told me that her freeze dryer was constantly having to go back to the company to be repaired, that she finally gave up because it was like she spent all this money and now all it is a big expensive paperweight. And the reason I'm sharing this is not because I am anti freeze drying community. That has got to be one of the dumbest, most asinine things that people have accused me of. If you've bought a freeze dryer, I am not at all against you. In fact, I pray and hope and pray that you have really, really great results that last for a long time and the thing doesn't break down on you. The funny thing is, even one of the ladies that got mad at me about pinning a comment to the top, it was under one of my freeze drying related videos. I pinned a comment to the top of a very, very similar story from a completely different person. And this other woman came in and was mad at me, but then also admitted she had those same problems too. And I'm like, then why are you mad for me making this? I think these are things that people need to know before they make the investment. It's called being honest. I mean, if I did have a freeze dryer and I had those issues, I would be telling people. especially if I was encouraging people to buy one through my link so that I can get, a commission off of it. Um, I'm not saying that don't get me wrong. I am not accusing other channels of lying about it. They probably got the good ones. The companies probably make sure that they get the ones that don't break down, or if they do, they probably make sure they fix it themselves because they want their affiliates to continue to give good reviews about their product so they can keep selling it. So what I'm kind of wondering is, if I don't know if the original ones they came out with were better, but I'm wondering if they're just getting cheap on the product so that they can give more away and get more sales. See, it's that greed thing again that comes in. It's all about the sales. Let's get more sales rather than making a good quality product. Now, I know that's that story, even though I've heard it again and again and again and again. I know that story doesn't apply to everyone who has one. I've had people tell me they've had theirs for a while and they've had great results. They love it. They use it for this, that, and the other thing, and that's wonderful. I would much rather see people invest in something and love it and have it last. But to put that kind of money into something and have it become a giant paperweight is it's ridiculous, and it's sad that this is happening. So I wanted to I think she shared her story with me because she wanted it out there, and that's why I wanted to go ahead and bring it up because she's having terrible time with customer service. They're treating her like crud. They're, um, they're just not willing to help her, and again, it's the same story I've heard again and again, and, I think she even said that she went to a freeze drying Facebook group to see if anybody else was having the same issues. Her stuff got deleted because, "Oh, I can't talk about that here." It's like, "Well, isn't that the purpose of it? You're trying to find out, 'Hey, does somebody else have this issue? How do I fix it? What can I do?'" Um, yeah, I was kind of interested in a freeze dryer for a little while. I do like a few freeze-dried foods, and I was like, "Is it worth the investment?" And after doing some research and also hearing a bunch of horror stories, and, in fact, the very first video I ever saw anyone do on that particular freeze dryer, they were not happy with it, and this was about 9 years ago. So, it's been an issue all along, really, but they didn't like it. They got it, they were all excited about it. They don't have a channel anymore, they quit doing YouTube, but they were a homesteading channel, and it was the first time I'd seen anyone do a video on it, and I was like, "Oh, cool, I wanna learn more about this." They were not happy with it. They sent it back to the company, got their money back. They did not at all happy with it. So, right from the get-go, I was like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I guess I'm not interested," when the guy went through all the problems he was having, all the things he didn't like about him, like, "Yeah, I don't think it's worth the investment. I'll just continue dehydrating and canning and all the other stuff I do." But then I thought, when another channel, and they're people I respect, got one and they were really excited about it, I'm thinking, "Maybe I should look into this again." Maybe they fixed some of these issues, but the more I looked into it, the more I'm like, "No." I could afford to pay cash for one, but I was like, I would rather put my money towards more property or other types of equipment that are far more necessary than a freeze dryer when I have plenty enough ways to preserve food long term. I don't know. What does that say? Radine? I don't know. I wonder. I mean, I have affiliates and we have the right. No one's told me that I can't talk negatively about any of this stuff. And if I have, like, when I got the garden stock, I liked it. I still like it, but I've since done a video sharing that I decided I probably won't get another one, even though I like it just fine. But I shared why. Um, some of you know that I stopped doing business with EMP Shield because I learned some things about them that I'm not. I'm not going to affiliate with them anymore. So I've been removed their link from my my upload defaults and all my recent videos and videos yet to publish. I don't know that I'll ever get back and remove all the link from all of the videos because there's just too many out there, but I did remove all of our videos about it. And I won't deal with them. So, if I find there's an issue, I mean, we personally haven't had any direct issue, but when I learned some things that I learned, I thought, nope, I can't do business with a company like that. I'm going to keep doing business with companies that where I really like the product and I'm going to be honest about it. If there's even if I really like the product, if there's anything I think that I would like to see better or maybe don't like as much, I will share that with people. But the problem is if you talk negatively, if you have an affiliate with a company and you say anything negative about it and you're honest, it's not that you're going to get dinged as far as the companies, well, they shouldn't. I mean, you should have a right to be completely honest. It's that you're going to feel you kind of have, especially if you're getting free product, there's going to be this natural desire to want to give a good review, especially if it's an expensive product. You're gonna naturally want to give a good review because, you kind of feel like you owe it to the company. But, so that's gonna be there, but also, if you're not giving a good review and you're affiliate, then you're not gonna get the commission off the sales because people aren't gonna purchase it. So, yeah, I mean, that's just how it works, and so I just try to be honest with people about, "Okay, this is who I'm an affiliate with. I like them because of this. It may not be for you." And like when I did this last summer, I did the update on the garden stock because I realized, oh, I haven't, or green stock, whatever it's called. It's got two names like Garden Well Green Stock, something like that. And so I decided, gosh, I never did an update on this to let people know how I feel about it after a few years. And, I still like it. I'll still use it, but I probably wouldn't invest in another one. Well, I didn't even buy that one. They gave it to me in exchange for a review. And that's what I did. And I did for a while make a little bit off of sales, but then suddenly that came to a stop. So I don't know if they decided I don't talk about it enough or something, or and they just booted me off as an affiliate. Some companies will do that, like the All American Solar Oven one. They'll if they don't feel you're selling enough of their product, they'll just boot you. What is this what I heard. I shouldn't say that. It's what I've heard, but I do know that they had contacted me a while back and I was kind of interested. This was years ago. And I was like, "Yeah, I would really like to try one. I might have this solar oven, but I've heard really good things about this one, and so I'd like to try it." But then right after that, the company changed hands and never heard another word about it. Not one. And so finally, after I don't know how long, I finally emailed them and, "Oh, we don't know anything about that." I'm like, "No, well, that figures, whatever. I don't need it anyway. I don't need it. I don't care." You know? So anyway, yeah. I personally have a freeze dryer, but thought one of the channels somewhat alluded to that. Maybe they did, I don't know. But again, as long as people are happy with their freeze dryer and it's holding up good for them, great. I mean, I have no problems with that. And it still just angers the heck out of me that somebody would accuse me of hating on the freeze drying community when it's not about the community. It's about the company and it's about the unit. And is it worth the expense to you as a customer and as a food preservationist? Is it gonna be worth your money, your time, the space, the noise, the added electricity to run it? These are all the things you have to look into. If you love all of your food freeze dried, you think the flavor's great, texture's great, then it might be worth it as long as you get a good unit though. You want you mean I mean, and so I think people just need to keep doing their own research. before you would make that kind of leap, because I just, again, the stories that keep coming back to me again and again and again just make me go, man, I'm so glad that I turned down that free freeze dryer, because I'm like, no, I want to stick to my principles on this, instead of not about being anti freeze dryer, but being more, okay, here's a more frugal way to do this if you can't afford a freeze dryer, because that's the other problem. There's so many people out there that are feeling pressured into buying one that just don't have the money. And nobody should feel pressured into buying anything like that, especially since dehydrating is like the oldest form of food food preservation, and people have been doing it for centuries. People have been doing it for thousands of years, and it works. And they did it without fancy electric dehydrators. They did it using the sun, the air, even in the Nordic countries, out in the winter, out all the snow, they'd hang their fish to dry. That's what they did. Go to Norway, they still have um I don't know if they still do this, but there's certain places in Norway where you can still see these big racks, massive racks down by the fish docks, where they would hang the fish to dry. So, hello, Deep South Homestead. Let's see, anything else? See, I have seen the 4 freeze dryers, like 4 freeze dryers for sale on Facebook Marketplace in Alaska, with almost 4 to 5,000 to get one up there. I'm concerned with why. Like secondhand, they're selling it secondhand and selling it for that much secondhand. I wouldn't get it. I wouldn't buy it secondhand. I wouldn't buy it firsthand either, but that's me. Anyway, so now let's get to the topic. I'm late. I'm sorry, I'm late. I got onto that topic, but I wanted to get that out there again, just because yet another person sent me their own little testimony about that. Okay, so we're talking about fasting. Now, before people get scared and run away, I do understand some people being diabetic, this could be a problem. I get that. My mom was diabetic, but she would fast every now and then. She would. And I don't recall her having any massive issues because of it. But that doesn't mean it's necessarily for you, and no one should feel that you have to do it, because you got your own body to think about here. But one thing that people should realize is there are all different types of fasting. I think we hear the word fast and we think it has to be. I did actually, Sandra. Thank you. I did it right at the very beginning this time, so I wouldn't forget it. Anyway, we think that fasting means you can't eat for 24 hours, or you can't eat for 48 hours, or whatever it is. Not necessarily. Remember, the word breakfast means exactly that. We pronounce it breakfast or breakfast, but it's actually break fast, because you're breaking the fast. You're already fasting unless you're eating all night long instead of sleeping. So from the time that you stop eating in the evening until you eat breakfast, or whenever you eat breakfast, you're fasting. So and your bodies are made to do that, because during that time during the night is the time your body can kind of reset itself. Now, going longer than that, if you're already doing that, then consider trying going a little longer. It can be as simple as that. So I don't know if Billy left already, but the intermittent fasting is something I started doing in high school, long before I'd ever heard of it. I just made it up. I never knew there was a name like that. I didn't have a name for it. I just found that I seemed to do better if I skipped a breakfast. But I never told anyone that, because back in the 80s, it was like, you should never skip breakfast. Oh, that's bad. That's bad. You'll die, whatever. Of course not. It's silly. But I knew that people would get on to me for not eating breakfast. I just know that I always felt better. I was less likely to want to snack so much between breakfast and lunch if I skip breakfast and then snack all the rest of the doggone day. And so I've done it off and on ever since my teens. And then it wasn't until maybe a couple years ago, I'm like, "What's this intermittent fasting? What's that?" I'm like, "Oh, I've been doing that for years." Is that what that is? So anyway, there's intermittent fasting. Fasting can also be simply cutting out completely certain foods for a time. Remember, for a time. So a carnivore diet could be a type of fast. A vegan diet could be a type of fast. A dairy-free diet, so on and so forth. This can be a type of fast. However, the actual not eating for a period of time, whatever that period of time is, I think is the one thing that can, for most people, obviously not everyone, is going to be the thing that's going to help most people out with some of their various ailments that they're dealing with. So let me look here. Also even just calorie restrictions could be, even if you're eating all day, could also be considered a fast of sorts. Now, let me just read off the benefits that I wrote down here, and then I'm going to share a few more things as well as what I've been doing and how it's been helping me. What I've been doing more recently. So, and yes, please share your own experiences in the, what is he? Carol says, I do intermittent fasting and type 2 diabetic and got off all my meds. Awesome. That is so wonderful. Thank you, Carol, for sharing that. Thank you. So anyway, let me read these, just the basic benefits that you can find just by doing some sort of fasting. So it's going to help with blood sugar control, fights inflammation. I know that Who's Your Pioneer was saying something about inflammation and looking for ways at helping with that. It may enhance heart health. It boosts the brain function. I'm going to come back to that one a little later. Obviously aids in weight loss, but not just because you're cutting back on calories. There's more to it than that. I mean, that would be obvious, but increases well, the next point kind of covers that. So increases growth hormone secretion. Now that sounds scary if you're trying to lose weight and you hear growth hormone. It's like, I don't want to grow anymore. I want to shrink. But what that is, that has to do with the muscle, building the muscle. So when you're building muscle, even just having more muscle, just having muscle helps to burn fat. Okay, so you're, by increasing the growth hormone secretions, you can strengthen your muscles, which will also then in turn help you burn more fat just in your day to day average regular activities. So, um, what did I say? Did I say it may aid in cancer prevention? You have to be careful how you word that, but it may aid in cancer prevention, improves immune system, helps clear the skin. So if you're having any kind of skin issues, consider this. Um, it cleanses the body and helps to detox. So that's, obviously one of the reasons why it's going to help with the skin and some of your other things. Now, those are just a few of the benefits you're going to find by fasting. Again, if you're just coming in, it doesn't matter if it's intermittent fasting, all day fasting, whatever. You can find some level to these benefits. Okay. Um, so one of the reasons why it works is because it helps to improve hunger. Now, again, improve hunger. I don't need to be more hungry. No, that's not the point. The point is it improves your body's ability to recognize real hunger and, oh, I can just go without food for a few extra hours. So your body begins to recognize that. And this is why, at least if you ever want to get to a point where maybe 1 or 2 days a week or once a month, you want to do a whole day fast. Starting off with intermittent fasting is going to be the easiest because you're going to start training your body a little bit at a time. And so it's funny how that is. I mean, because sometimes we can think we're hungry when we're just thirsty. Speaking of, I'm thirsty. Hi, thirsty. I'm hungry. But but yeah, sometimes just being thirsty can make you think you're hungry because your body needs to basically be reset and your brain needs to be reset when it comes to those feelings of hunger, pain, and knowing, okay, is this real hunger or is this just me having a craving for something? Or I just smelled something really yummy cooking and now I'm hungry. That may not be real hunger. And so by fasting, your body's going to it's going to improve its ability to understand the difference. And then the other reason why is, as I kind of already said, is that by fasting, you're kind of resetting everything physiologically. And you're resetting it in your brain, you're resetting it in your body. And this is why it can be very helpful for a lot of the different types of health issues. And one that I didn't specifically put in there, it can help a lot with gut issues of various kinds. I need more water. My mouth, mostly my mouth is getting dry from all the yap, yap, yap. Sandra. Oh my goodness. Well, and speaking of that, COVID, Linda, I'm gonna get to that. Well, actually, I'm gonna talk about that right now, in fact. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure some of you could say something similar because I've heard this again and again and again. Would drinking water be concerned breaking fast? No. There's absolutely no calories in water. You need to be hydrated. That's important. So I don't think people should fast from water. I think people need to drink water. That's super, super important, especially when you're talking nonstop and you need to keep rehydrating yourself. Anyway, what was I starting to say? Oh, I just had a complete brain cramp. Oh, okay, COVID. So a show of hands, you can put the little hand symbol in there. If not only have you had COVID at some point, but ever since you have had it, have you found yourself having health issues that you didn't have before? Or found yourself catching colds and flus a lot more easily? Maybe you have gut problems, maybe you have lung problems you didn't have before. We're finding a common theme here. And it doesn't matter if you had the shot or not. Okay, it does I'm not talking about that. Whether you had that or not, if you have actually had the virus at some point. So Patrick and I both had it in 2021, and, ever since then well, yeah, ever since then, off and on, Patrick has had some lung issues. He's just recently finally getting better. He's been, for almost 2 weeks, had just some lot going on in here. Okay, I've been giving him Mullen, I've been giving him Mullen and Usnea, uh, tincture, I've been giving him all kinds of stuff, and, I even finally broke down and gave him some cinchona bark tincture, and that that seemed to really boost the healing, and he's getting better. He sounds way, way better in the last couple of days. But it's really disturbing to me how ever since I have struggled. I've suffered. For me, it's been more fatigue. The fatigue, I start getting better, and I find another joint hurts. Or I like when because it was after that I was breaking out board and I tore the ACL in my knee. I'd never done that before. I've had sprains of all kinds all since my teens, but I've never done that, and especially with such a small movement, and it seems like there's not much I have to be extra careful now, or I'm more apt to hurt my knee or something. It's like, it was never like that before. And, not so much lung issues, but just find myself catching colds more easily. It used to be I could go years and not I mean, I was around dance students all the time with the runny noses and, and chewing on their fingers, and then, you're grabbing their hands and, you touch your eye, whatever. And almost never got colds and flus. It was very rare around all those kids. And Ever since COVID, it's been different. I'm not saying I get sick all the time, and sometimes I start to get something and I can usually knock it out pretty quickly, but it's just like everything's changed. And somebody told me yesterday that what they have found is that people, at least they, just in their own kind of watching how things have been playing out, is that people who had whatever issue you may have had, no matter how minor it was before COVID, after having COVID, all of that became more problematic, or you were more apt to have issues with that, where maybe it was a very mild, you know, nothing burger. So, with that said, um, something that happened several months ago was my daughter-in-law got super, super sick. She got some kind of bug that they could never figure out what it was. It was a kind of stomach bug that I don't think I've ever heard of before. I mean, well, as far as the way it acted, I couldn't find anything. I took all of her, the information she was giving me on her symptoms and everything, and I couldn't find anything quite like that. But had diarrhea for weeks and, just constantly feeling sick. She lost like 20 pounds in a week, and it wasn't even just like she would eat and several hours later it would go through. No, she would eat and it would go straight through her. Like, as soon as she ate her last bite, or even while she was still trying to eat her meal, she was running to the bathroom every time, straight through her. So she was getting absolutely no nutrients from her food. Well, shortly after me and I got I think it had to be the same thing, but it didn't affect me quite the same way. But for like 3 months straight, I was having nausea and then the diarrhea, and then it would seem like it would get better, and then it would come back, and it seemed like there was nothing I could eat that wouldn't set it off. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on. And then it seemed like it was good for a while. It was just kind of a slow process of getting better. And I know other people around here were dealing with something similar. I'm like, I've never heard of anything like this. Like I said, my daughter-in-law was seeing the doctor about other things because she had other health issues she was trying to get to the bottom of. And they couldn't figure out, nobody knew what it was. Nobody. And anyway, so I mean, it's still a big question mark as to what was this thing. And it just wants to hang on for weeks. And in my case, seems like months. I'd get a little bit better and then I'd go back again. It'd be like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward again, 1 step back. And so it was a slow getting better. Well, I this last time when I kind of went backwards a little bit again, I decided, you know what? It's time for me to get back into my regular regimen of the intermittent fasting and then taking a whole day fast at least once or twice a week. Because along with that, I was getting the skin rashes coming back mostly on my arms and my upper back. Never had issues with that before. And I got rid of them before and all of a sudden they came back again. And so I'm thinking it must be whatever happened, I've got to I've got to clear it out. I'm thinking some kind of parasite or something. Excuse me. So along with the fasting, so right now I'm doing a full day fast twice a week for now. I don't know if I'll keep it up because I'm also doing the intermittent fasting the other days of the week, which means I've only got if you're new to intermittent fasting, what that means, I'm only allowing myself a very short eating window, which is about 3, 4 hours tops, right in there, maybe 5 hours on I'll say tops 5 hours. And so the rest of the time I stop eating it by a certain time of night, usually about 3 or 4. I don't eat anything after that. And then I won't eat again the next day until 11 or 12. Depending on how things are going. But I'll even do that after I've been fasting for a full day, which means my full day fast is almost 2 days by the time I finally eat something. So it's like, um, what figure about 42 to 44 hours is usually how long I'm going when I do that. But that's only 2 days of the week right now. I'll probably drop back to 1 and then just do the intermittent fasting on the rest of the days. And I'm not saying I don't like have some days where I just, like yesterday, because it was Sabbath, and I usually try to cook a nice breakfast, and I got that yummy beef bacon, and I find that I got to have that beef bacon. And so I did eat a little earlier yesterday, but I still cut it off by, I think 3 or 4. I don't remember. Now, I'm not saying that I'm not sharing what I'm doing to say this is what you should do. I'm sharing what I'm doing because this is what I just so you can understand where I'm at right now. Now, usually the easiest way to get to the point where you can even fast for even just a 24-hour period, like I said earlier, is to just kind of deprive yourself. Like if you're normally eat breakfast, instead of eating breakfast at 7, push it off until 8. And do that for a little while, and then push it off until 9. And then eventually you'll find it gets easier and easier, and you can wait until at least noon. So, and then same thing from the other end. You can, eat until, don't eat anything after 6 o'clock. And it's actually better not to eat too late in the evening anyway. You don't want to go to bed on a full stomach. You want your food pretty well digested before you go to bed. It'll just be better for you all the way around. Um, but anyway, you can shorten that. And then just find the eating window that works for you. If you're diabetic, you may need a larger eating window than I do. 3, 4 hours might be way too small. You may have to go bigger than that. And that's fine. You have to find what works for you and never feel guilty or that you're not as good as somebody else because you're not doing it the same way. If you start feeling terrible, then it means you probably need to have a bigger eating window, or not fast so much. Right now, what I'm doing, the reason I'm kind of going so extreme is because I'm trying to knock everything out. And I can tell you ever since that first day that I started the full day fast, everything started getting better just from day 1, and it was a Sunday. So I said, "That's it. I gotta do this because I'm sick and tired of dealing with whatever's going on in my guts, and I gotta reset everything." And then, well, I've also been taking diatomaceous earth along with that because if it is some kind of bug or parasite or something, I wanna make sure whatever gets flushed out of there. But yes, no more stomach issues until the other day, I decided to let myself have popcorn. Hadn't had popcorn in a long time. Now, I didn't feel nauseous. I didn't have diarrhea the next day or later that night. I just felt very bloaty. So I'm like, okay, no on the popcorn. I'm kind of experimenting to see if there is certain food, because popcorn used to never bother me, never, until a few months ago. I can have grits, so it's not the corn. Grits don't bother me. It's the popcorn itself, and I'm guessing it's probably because of the hulls. That's my assumption, that my guts are still my guts, that my stomach is still like, "Nope, not ready for that yet," and maybe I never will be, and that's gonna be a hard one. I love popcorn, but at any rate, I still have grits. I have that. That grits works. I put butter and salt on them, so it's like eating popcorn, but little teeny tiny little pieces. I love it. So, if I wasn't fasting today, because it's Sunday and Wednesdays are my fast days right now, I think I'd go make myself some grits as soon as the show was over with. So, I'll have to wait till tomorrow. That's okay. It'll give me something to look forward to. And so that's another thing too. Here's the other thing is that fasting also makes you appreciate the taste of food so much better, and so you savor it and you enjoy it more. As long as you're not so hungry, you're just wolfing it down and not tasting it at all. But sometimes we just kind of get in the habit of eating stuff, and we lose that appreciation for the flavor of our favorite foods. And so why are we wasting our calories on things that are just like, meh, or junk food when we could be eating something that we know is healthy and that we love, love, love the taste of, like the Painted Hills beef bacon. I adore it. I love it. So of course I had a couple of pieces of my beef of that beef bacon yesterday morning. And one of my homemade rolls that I made the afternoon before, Friday afternoon. Usually Friday's my bread making day. Fridays and sometimes Mondays too. And we for Patrick's favorite right now, which I have to say is probably my favorite, is the butter crescent rolls. And so they're already buttered. They're buttered inside and outside, and it's ready to go. Do you know that you can pop? What is Milo? Is it Milo or Milo? I know a lot of those, like even the little teeny tiny things, like what is it? Like maybe quinoa, but what's the one that's related to that I'm not thinking of? Oh, yeah, there's a lot of those you can pop. Sorghum, you can pop that too. Um, Who's your pioneer? I'm guessing with a lot of people who are having issues with grains, it's probably it. I'm finding I don't think my issues. I was really worried my issues might be with grains all of a sudden, but no, no. I mean, I can eat my breads, my homemade breads. I don't have any problem with those. So it just seems like by doing this fasting and the fasting 2 days a week and then the intermittent fasting on the other days, it's helping me kind of narrow it down to it's like, okay, it's not that, I just ate that and I feel fine. But when I had the popcorn, that was the thing that just made me feel bloaty. Thankfully, I didn't feel nauseous or have any other side effects, but thankfully, like I said, the rash, the itchiness, it's not even really a rash. It's just really weird. My skin just gets super itchy, and every so often I was getting hives, little tiny hives, and I'm like, this is a sign my body's trying to get rid of something. What is it? I mean, I'm not doing anything different than I normally would do. But ever since having that weird bug that I probably would have never got if it wouldn't have been for back in 2021 getting COVID, um, that changed everything. Everything's been different. And I know so many people have said the same thing. And I know a lot of you saw the hands going up in there, and some of you were the ones that put the hands up. So it caused a change in a lot of us. Now, how do we work around it? How do we heal our bodies? Well, the fasting and the intermittent fasting, whichever way you go with it, or even just maybe try cutting out a certain type of food for a period of time. Try cutting out grains for a period of time. Or maybe cutting out meat for a period of time, or dairy, or or sugars. Obviously, processed sugar should pretty much be cut out, but I'm not absolutely 100% against sugar like some people, like all sugar is poison. The thing is, uh, a little bit's fine, especially if you're getting a quality organic. If you're looking at cane sugar, raw honey, molasses, it's about the amount, right? I mean, even the Bible tells us, enjoy honey, but too much can make you feel sick. So Terry has a hay allergy for skin breakout. Her skin breaks out with circular rash spots as big as a quarter. Is that like, are they hives where they're raised? And because that's hives are one of those, when you see hives, that means your body's trying to push something out through the skin, pretty much any skin rash. But anyway, thankfully the for the most part the itchiness is gone. The stomach issues have been gone, other than that popcorn the other day, just from the day one of fasting. So I have to go to bed late too. I can't seem to break the habit. Oh, because I get up so early, I have to go to bed. Like this time of year, it's usually between 8 and 9. A lot of times I'm falling asleep because I sit on the floor. I'm usually falling asleep on the floor at 7 o'clock at night. But at any rate, I do want to talk about one more thing in relation to fasting. And I just want to warn everybody who's not a believer. You don't believe in the Bible, you don't believe in God. That's fine. You're welcome to stay. I just want to warn you. I don't always do the warning thing. Um, that I will be talking a little bit about the spiritual significance of fasting because there's a reason why it was in the Bible. There's a reason why Jesus said, "This kind only cometh out by prayer and fasting." There's a reason why through the Old Testament people were fasting. Day of Atonement is commonly a day that people will fast, and it's a way of um, well, as far as it's a way of worship, okay, and being obedient, and it's also a way of helping to focus your prayers. That's one thing I found that really, really helps, and I think that's why Jesus said, "This kind cometh out only by prayer and fasting." I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but when here's the thing, is when you feel a hunger pain, your body's being selfish, it's wanting something it probably really doesn't need because, most of us can go a while without eating and be just fine as long as we got good, clean water. When you feel that hunger pain, it reminds you to pray for somebody. And that's one thing I love about it. It reminds me, oh, who do I need to pray for now besides the people I typically pray for, which is my family. I'm usually praying for somebody in my family. But is there something else or some situation? Maybe you want to pray for the state of your government or your world leader, whoever it is, that whether you agree with them or not, they need prayer. Okay. They either need prayer that they get saved or that they do the right thing or whatever. Okay. Um, and sometimes that's an easy one to forget. But there's always somebody or something we can pray for. And when we feel that hunger pain come on, we can pray for somebody and the hunger pain will go away because now we're focusing on our focus is going outward rather than, ooh, I'd really like to have a Snickers bar right now, or whatever, whatever the craving is you have, or those grits, or that popcorn, or that beef bacon. And then, and it's Paul talks about beating the body into submission, and I see that as part of it because you're bringing your body into submission, your flesh into submission, and focusing on again focusing outward, not just on praying for others, but your relationship with the Father. And so it is an important thing spiritually. And when I was a teenager, I struggled with this because I wanted to be able to fast, but I had such a hard time with it. But I wanted to be able to have that closer relationship. And it didn't, it took me a while to kind of find how to ease myself into it so that I could do it. So what did see, I love that maybe anytime I'm craving something, I can pray for someone. Right. I missed what you said about hives. Hives is a way you got it after fasting. I'm not sure why you would get it after fasting. Usually hives is one of the ways it's, a lot of times a sign of an allergy, but it's also, an allergic reaction, sneezing, hives, whatever it is, all of that, anything that's being expelled from your body, no matter from what side, that's your body trying to get rid of something, some kind of toxin, something that it shouldn't have. So usually that's what that means. So uh, I do want to bring up something else, and this will help explain why I'm one that highly prefers the King James Bible. In fact, it's the only Bible I personally use, and it's the only Bible I've used for at least 12 years. And that is if you look at Mark 9:29, it's one of the places where Jesus says this kind cometh out only by prayer and fasting. Almost every single modern version of the Bible cuts it off after prayer. They just take "and fasting" and just make it go away. And I listed off some of these. I listed off some of the most popular ones today that have cut that off. And that is the ESV, the LSB, the TLB, the NASB, the NIV, of course, the NOG, the NLT, and many more. Okay, they just cut that off. Now, there's another verse where Jesus says prayer and fasting, and that is Matthew 17:21. Now, thankfully, at least some of the modern versions leave it, the prayer and fasting, while others just erase the verse altogether. It's completely gone. So instead of going from verse 17:20, Matthew 17:20, it goes from to 21, it goes from 17:20 to 17:22, and verse 21 is completely eliminated. It's completely removed. It's not the first time you'll find, if you look at a lot of your modern versions, um, it's not the first time that if you're paying attention to the numbers that you'll see where numbers will skip, because sometimes a single verse, sometimes several verses have been removed entirely. Now, why would they do that? Why would these modern so-called translators take out such an important thing when fasting is an important part of our worship, an important part of drawing closer to God and prayer? And Jesus even saying, "This kind cometh out," talking about, this demon-possessed person, "only by prayer and fasting." He said that because the disciples were like, "Why couldn't we do it? This one needs a little more work, prayer and fasting." Um, he didn't just say, "And this kind don't come without only by prayer." So that tells me the reason it's been removed from most modern Bibles is there's an importance to it. And so you got to, and Debbie, I appreciate that, but you got to be careful with that one too. There's stuff missing in that too. Important stuff. I know sometimes we think if we go with this one, it's going to have it all there. So I can't say about any other language, but at least as far as the English goes, you're going to find it. You're going to find that all there. You're not going to find missing verses or where Jesus has been, or what was it? Instead of calling Lucifer, Lucifer, they changed him to the morning star. Wait a minute, who's the morning star? It's not Lucifer. That's a pretty big one. You'll see that in the NIV, and I can't remember how many other ones. It was things like that that made me go, wow. And I used to use NIV. Okay. I'm not saying people can't still be saved reading some of these other Bibles, because God spoke through an ass, and sometimes he still does today. Okay. And he can use anything to reach a person, but I think sometimes to get a full grasp on what, things like this, to me, this isn't, this is, I think, is a fairly important thing. There's some things that are even bigger that have been completely eliminated from a lot of the modern Bibles. And the complete Jewish Bible is a modern version. I don't want to badmouth anyone that's using that. I mean, you do what you do. I'm just sharing with you why the KJV is the King James. It was the Bible for 400 years in English. It was what we used. And then the modern translators, when you start finding out why they changed things, or you start learning about exactly who some of the people were on, let's just say, the NIV, when you find out who some of the people were on the translating committee, you'd go, why are these people on the translating committee of God's word? Uh, that to me was enough to say, no more NIV for me. That's why I get really mad when Bible Gateway wants to. I go there and it's like, why do they keep wanting to bounce back to NIV? Every like so often. Yeah, we actually listen to on YouTube. There's the Alexander Scorby King James Bible reading, and so Patrick and I listen to 5 chapters every night. sometimes more, sometimes less, depending on where we are. Most of the time, we try to go 5 chapters, and we're going through the whole Bible. And I like it because I can, when it has the scriptures up there too, so you can read it while you're listening, so you're getting it through both gates at the same time. That's what we like to do. Um, so whichever Bible you're, please don't be offended. I'm just sharing with you what I have learned along the way, and I'm always learning something new, and I just go, wow. So, yeah, I've heard good things about the Geneva Bible. I know the guy that kind of heads up our fellowship on Saturdays, he uses that, and it's pretty close to the King James. I haven't, some of the wording is slightly different, but I haven't seen anything missing. And that's what bothers me probably more than anything. Or when wording is changed in such a way that it actually completely changes the meaning of the verse to mean opposite of what it's supposed to mean. Those are the things that truly bother me. And it's like, no wonder there's so much confusion in Christianity, so much misunderstanding, because we're not all on the same page, quite literally. And there's always going to be difference in opinions and where God's leading us and where God's working in our hearts. I mean, I just think how much Patrick and I have changed in the past year, even though we were basically born and raised in church. My dad was a Baptist minister. And yet in the past year, God's just really done a number in us just by simply reading a word cover to cover. The change it's made in us and opening our eyes. Do we know it all yet? Oh, goodness sakes, no, 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 no. We're still learning. That's why we have to keep going back to the beginning and read it again. And we got to go back to the beginning, read it again, because we're going to learn something new each time we go through there. Our eyes are going to be open to more of the truth that we didn't quite grasp the first time. So nearly all modern translations come from less than 5% Greek texts, and those texts often don't agree. So yeah, you got your Textus Receptus, and yeah, I studied this in depth to some degree back, well, about 12 years ago, when I was like, I just want God's word. I want it as close to what it's supposed to say as can be. And if we don't believe that God preserved his word perfectly as he promised us, then what do we believe? We have to believe he did preserve his word perfectly somewhere, because he said he would. Okay. So there's that. And I will move on from that topic, especially for those who are not interested in that. If you hung around and suffered through all that, thank you. And I can't remember if I had any other topics I was going to talk about. I think I already covered them all in the intro. And so what I'm going to do on Wednesday, so those who maybe are new to my live shows, just know that on Sundays are the days I try to focus on a set topic. And then Wednesdays are the days I try to cover the Q&A, questions that have come in either in the chats during this live show or in comments under other, videos or in emails. Let me say this one. So yes, Jehovah is in the King James Bible, and so is Yah, Jah, because God doesn't have just one name. He doesn't have just one name. He even gives himself many names. I am that I am. Say that I am has sent you. I mean, he gives himself. If you read, when you go from Genesis all the way through to Revelation, and then in Revelation, guess what he says? He's going to give himself a new name that nobody knows yet. We don't know that one yet. So if we think we've got it all figured out by this one name that we think we should be calling him, well, that's going to be different in the end, because he has his own name that he's going to be going by that's completely different. So that's what it says. Anyway, but there's only one God. There's only one Lord. There's only one Jehovah. There's only one I am. Only one. So I don't have to worry about I don't have to worry about that. So at any rate, yeah. So on Wednesday, I'll be covering some more Q and A. And like I said, I think what I'll do is I will go. Um, yeah, God is a title, but he's still with a capital G. He's the only one. He's the only one. There's only one God. There's only one Lord. Period. Anyway, yeah, I don't sometimes we can get too caught up in some things that don't matter. And I know you're not doing that, Deb. You're cool. You've always been cool. I appreciate you so much. But I just bring that up because sometimes people can use a lot of that for a source of contention that can tear people apart and cause divisions in our beliefs. We should all be bound together. And again, I want to make sure you understand I know that's absolutely not what you're doing. But I've seen it happen so much. It's happened more directly to me too, and it was really hurtful. But so I don't judge people on that. I don't. So I keep saying I'm going to get away from this topic. It's a good topic though. I mean, if we're believers, we want to keep talking about our Father and what he's done for us. But what was they saying? So anyway, yeah, the questions. So I probably will recover some of the ones I did on Wednesday since the live show audio just went berserk. Even when I was able to get back on, it was all wonky and weird. So when I got off, I was so frustrated. You probably saw it in my face, I'm sure. I was so frustrated that I just shut everything down. A lot of times I'll just close the computer. Well, it usually shuts itself down anyway, but I made sure shut everything down just in case it was on my end and gave everything a full reboot because I wanted to make sure. But I do believe it was all on YouTube's end. I think so. And I was going to start the show. This is what I can end with. Because I've been trying to start the show. Like I say, I won't do this every time because I probably won't dig all my old books out because I have some way in the guest room back here. It's way, way up on a high shelf. I have to crawl up on the bed and get a ladder or whatever, to get up there. But I try to pull out one of the old vintage or antique books that I have collected over the years from garage sales and whatever. Some of them are books that people just sent to me. So this is Easy Steps for Little Feet from Genesis to Revelation. So basically a kid's Bible. And though I think kids should be hearing the whole Bible, children should have the whole Bible read to them. And not just dumbed down. I think it's also good for them to have something they can easily read to themselves. I had a kid's Bible when I was a little girl and I loved it. I loved it. I often wonder what happened to that one. So what does this say here? George Clark, Centerville. I think it's supposed to say Washington. Centerville. Is there a place called Centerville in Washington? Half time, I don't know where I get some of this stuff. But anyway, the copyright on this one is 1907. So it's pretty cool. So definitely past the antique point. And it's actually in pretty good shape considering how old it is. I mean, it looks a little rough around the edges. Obviously, the pages are a little yellowed. But yeah, obviously, whenever I'd see something like that, this is even before my kids were married, that I'm like, I want to make sure I have some good books of all various kinds on hand that, for my grandbabies when they come around. And I'm so glad I did that. So what else is going on here? Everyone not right, Deb. Right. That's the other thing too, is some people can get confused. Like, what are you talking about? Especially if you start using all Hebrew names like Moshe and Shalomo and Shaul. People are like, what? Are you speaking in tongues? What is that? And the only reason I know those is because for a while I was listening to a podcast of like the Torah portions. And so they were reading, and they're ladies from Israel reading the scriptures. So they're reading it with those pronunciations. And I'm like, wait, who's that? But it did make me kind of get a little bit of grasp of Hebrew and how the pronunciations work. Because when you learn anything about any language, you pick up on um, the certain uh, rules, basically. So, like the S is almost always going to be a sh sound, so that's why it's Moshe. But the S at the end is silent. Well, the S at the end is probably not there because that's more of a Greek spelling, and you'll see that a lot. Just like with Jesus, if you break it down in the way it would be pronounced in Hebrew, the J would be ya, the E would be a, the S would be sh, yeshu, and the S and the end to S would be silent. That's actually pretty simple. Yeshua. And a lot of times that little extra at the end, some people believe it belongs there. Some people think it's just kind of an added vowel, like a diphthong. Diphthongs are pretty common in all languages. So anyway, it's interesting. It's fun learning. I am not fluent in anything but English, but I've learned bits and pieces. I've taken classes like on French. I've taken Spanish, and then when I was homeschooling my kids, we learned some Latin together and some Italian together. And you get to where you can start picking up on certain things and certain rules of the way a language works. Doesn't mean you're going to understand the words when you see them, but at least when you see it written, like in our English letters, you might know how to properly pronounce it, which is kind of fun. But I also don't believe it's necessary. I don't think we're going to be speaking, when we get to heaven, I don't think we're going to be speaking any earthly language that we know now. I think we'll be speaking a completely different language. So, anyway, blah, 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 blah. And I keep coming back to that. It's all your guys' fault. It's always your guys' fault. I can blame you guys. See, I read about feasts and started hyperventilating about cleaning my house before Passover. Every crumb, closets. You know what, Deborah? We all start somewhere. And I realized after Passover last year, it was months later, I'm like, oh, I forgot about this. All I did though, I mean, and maybe it's not right. Maybe people would disagree, but I just took all that I knew I had anyway and stuck it in a box and put it in a room way, way out as far away from the main house as I could. Because there was a lot of stuff in there. It's like, I've been stocking up on this stuff. I've been stocking up on this dry yeast. And I have it all vacuum sealed and this and that. I'm not gonna throw this out. So it's just but like Zach would say, it's all about, getting rid of like your sourdough mostly. But it's symbolic. It's just symbolic of cleaning the sin, cleansing the sin. Jesus cleans us of our sin, right? Covers it with his blood. And anyway, we learn as we go. And, there's always more to learn. And it's that process of learning, I think is so important because, we begin to find out who the Father really is, and what and who we are. And when we understand who we are and who we should be, then we have this desire to want to, obey and to be. And I'll tell you this. I know I keep coming back. I keep saying I'm done, but here's the thing: is when we understand God's borders. See, He set borders. You set borders for your children. You set borders for your grandchildren. And once you have these borders, this is the analogy that came to me the other day. Was that so? You buy a trampoline. You don't have any fencing around your trampoline. And you're bouncing and bouncing, you're gonna go flying off the trampoline. You don't have anything. There's that fear, you don't have anything to kind of keep you held in there. But once you understand what those borders are, what those safety nets are, and that's God's commandments that He set up. He set up His safety net for us. But once that safety net's in place and we understand it, it actually is rather freeing. There's so much. That's what really got me is how much more free I feel understanding what exactly those borders, those principles, those guidelines, those commandments, those statutes, understanding better what they are. And it's like, okay, now I can bounce all over the trampoline. I don't have to worry about bouncing out onto the ground and cracking my skull open. It's freeing. It makes it so much more fun, right? Bouncing on the trampoline when you know you're not gonna go shooting off into the neighbor's yard. Oh, anyway, that's my silly little analogy. It was after our fellowship a couple weeks ago, and I was just staying there talking, and it just kind of popped into my head, and I shared it with someone, and like, oh, I like that. Trampoline net. Uh, you didn't throw it all. I put it in the tub and put it in. Yeah, yeah. That's basically what I did. Put it in a box and set it, you know, out. And I set it out in our power room. Where our battery bank is and where we collect the rainwater and all that. So that's where I put it. Plus, it'd stay coldest out there too, so I didn't have to worry about it. But not that it really well because I went ahead and put my fermentation starters out there as well, and then I didn't want them to get too warm, so they because I didn't want them to turn to wine while they're out there. So anyway, I guess I'm probably gonna go ahead and close this out. I can't remember what all I have to do. I actually already edited my video that I shot this morning. I'm like, wow, that video went really fast. I thought it was gonna be a much longer video when I had the topic all picked out and it was writing all my notes. And this might be like at least a 15-20 minute video. It's only like 8 minutes, if that. I mean, this is after all the editing, but even then it was like I think it started off at 12 and then I had places I kept making mistakes and having to start over. So then it was like, well, I'm not even on here as long as I normally am, Tammy. I kind of guess I'm out of topics. Usually I have all this stuff I'm talking about, and I still talked a lot. Sin does not make us sinners. We sin because we are sinners. Is it right? Yep. Oh, well, there's questions coming in. I guess I'll stay a little bit longer. Question: have you used your egg powder for French toast? I haven't, Brandy. I haven't made French toast in forever. And that's a really good idea. Maybe the next time I make bread, I'll make regular loaf bread so I can slice it and then make some French toast. That's a good idea. And maybe I'll try the egg powder. I don't know why it wouldn't work. It should work just fine. I need to start working through my egg powder. My chickens are going to start, I mean, they're laying decently right now, enough that I can sell a couple dozen eggs a week and then still have some to give to a family member that needs them. But at any rate, I still need to they're gonna start laying even more here once all the snow is gone and we start getting more, more light and all that. So, I should start working through my egg powder so I can put up some fresh egg powder and kind of cycle through it. Haven't been good about that. Thank you, Heidi, for the fasting subject. Was helpful. Thank you. Cindy, I almost forgot. I remembered. Pretty proud of myself for that one. Pat myself on the back. Okay, I thought I saw another question. Maybe not. Did I answer the question? I did. Okay. There's probably more, but as usual, I go back through and I look for the questions that I missed and I write them down. That's why I like them in all caps because that way, if I missed it, I'm skimming through the chat later on in the week and I'm like, there's one I missed. So, Tammy, oh my goodness, what did I do? They really, they have an issue with everything. Everything, can't say anything. Sometimes you guys are cracking me up. We look forward to the Sunday live stream. Thank you for being here, Tyler. I appreciate that. And I thank you to everyone else and to Deb. What did I have 2 mods today or did I have 3? I think I only saw 2. Thank you for being, and then everyone else, you're just as important as the moderators. I just got to have at least a few blue wrenches in there that, at least have an idea what to do if somebody gets out of hand and they use their wrench and do the smackdown. That's what the wrench is for. It's for the smackdown. Anyway, you guys get a wrench rather than the frying pan. See, I get the skillet when Mr. Rain comes in. That's my weapon of choice there. So she called her chicken fat. And now she's oh my goodness. What a bunch of silliness. It just keeps getting dumber and dumber all the time. Anyway, my voice actually held out pretty good. I had a little bit of having to clear the throat in the beginning, but I'm surprised. I've been really surprised at how well my voice has been holding out. That one of the first live shows I did, I was like, it just completely went away. Some of you were here when that happened. I was just like, I couldn't talk at all. So I am so thankful that my vocal cords, those nodules on my vocal cords have been able to make it through my live shows most of the time. That's very good. Anyway, for reals, people. So I hope you guys have a great week, a great rest of your day. Thanks for coming in. And whatever else I'm supposed to say, take care and God bless. Love y'all. Hope to see you on Wednesday.